Baby, everything you do is amazing. Ain't nobody watching go crazy.
Do it, do it, do it, do it now.
Baby, everything you do is amazing. Ain't nobody watching go crazy.
Do it, do it, do it, do it now.
Lay up to your crib in the middle of the night. I know that you miss me as I put it down right down there. I can put you on a flight. Baby, everything you do is amazing. Ain't nobody watching go crazy.
I know, it's been a long time since I posted a video, and I know you guys really miss my videos and really want me to make more.
Wait, let me tell you something.
And you're thinking, I don't want to hear it, Evan. It's been way too long, almost 2 months without you making a video.
All right, let me tell you something.
So the reality is it got extremely busy because the YouTube channel got so successful that we had so many customers coming in and all the cars were so cool. I had to film everything, and I was doing like 16, 17-hour days, and it was just way too much, and I could not make time to edit. When that calmed down, I was a little burned out, so I needed to kind of slow down and relax a little bit, and now things have normalized and we're getting back into a normal schedule, and more videos will be coming, so look forward to more videos like this one. So enjoy. Welcome back to Status Detail, and say hello to the McLaren GT finished in Volcano Yellow. It's an absolutely incredible color, which I'll show on camera a little bit more later. And this car has a couple surprises for us. It has some insane defects, which I'll show in depth later in the video. We're also going to have a couple surprise guests. There's 2 other cars that'll make little kind of cameos in this video. This car is so cool. It's so cool looking. The doors are super cool. And like I said, that paint is unbelievably cool. So you can see this unbelievable like metallic flake. This is called Volcano Yellow. And God, it looks amazing. But when you see it in the sun, guys, it is like next level. It's really, really cool. So you can see the car looked like, for the most part, some of those panels looked okay, but then we get to these black, like piano black panels, and you can really tell how bad these are. So, a lot of the car has defects on it that are in the range of this bad, but for some reason these piano black pieces are considerably worse than the majority of the yellow parts of the car. Now, I have a suspicion that the dealership or somebody before the actual owner took possession of the car actually did attempt to polish the car, because there was large amounts of compound and like polish residue throughout the car, and at this point all I've done is wash it. I have not polished yet. So somebody probably paint corrected the yellow portions of the car, and this never paint corrected the black portions is my assumption, because the black parts were obviously so bad and the yellow parts don't look that bad in comparison. These are a couple shots of like the lower rocker panels of the car, and you can see there's like kind of a weird haze going on. They don't quite look right. They're not like Volcano Yellow. They're like a hazy white version of Volcano Yellow. This is on the passenger side. Now this is on the driver's side, and on this side you can really see it. Basically, these kind of look like almost like a sanding mark left over, or some kind of, it looks more to me like some kind of weird oxidation. I don't really know how this would happen on a car that's so new, but you can see here just how severe it is. I mean, we want to be seeing this beautiful clear Volcano Yellow color, but we're really seeing this white hazy appearance, and that's pretty bad. Even McLarens, they need paint correction when the car is brand new. So like, cars need paint correction. It's very important, especially if you're doing ceramic coatings and paint protection film. So you can see a bunch of other random weird things, like the PPF that's on the door handle here is put on in kind of not a perfect way. I just don't like the way this was applied. It's not really even. It's not really right. The edges were lifting. You can see some compound residue. You can see how the mirrors were actually like self-destructing themselves when the mirror turns. It's actually chipping paint off. There's 1 or 2 rock chips in the car, because the car did have a very low miles, but not delivery miles. Like, it was around like 200 or 300 miles or something like that. And there's some weird defects here that are being shown pretty quickly that we're going to go into in depth in a minute and show. But you can see even PPF on top of it still shows it. So it confirms to me that I am going to have to wet sand these defects to fully fix them, because I don't want them to show through the PPF basically permanently, because the PPF will last for so long. So these look weird to me. The ones that were by the headlight almost looked like someone pushed their thumbprint into the paint when the paint was curing or something. It was very, very strange. And this one was the most like pronounced. Like, you could really feel this one with your finger if you ran your finger over it. So like I said a second ago, the only way to really remedy this was to wet sand it. And you know, this is not terrible to do to a new car. When a car is new, it has a pretty good amount of paint. We know no one's polished or compounded it before us. If someone did polish this at the dealership, they didn't like attack it with a rotary and like remove all the paint, or at least you would hope so. So there's a lot of paint on the car, which means that we can definitely wet sand and not burn through, as long as you obviously know what you're doing and are comfortable and have experience wet sanding. And then, you know, we can level this out and basically remove enough clear coat to kind of get past or get through the defected area and get to the healthy paint that was underneath. Once you do that, you can just polish it all back out, and just like that, the defect is completely gone, and now we can put paint protection film over this area, and it'll be completely, basically perfect. Like, you know, we won't have anything showing through on the film. Now, it's interesting when you're doing something like this that sometimes you might be left with like 2 or 3% of a kind of a ghosting or a shadow of the defect, but because we're putting film over it, we actually don't need to fully remove it, because the film will hide that last 2 or 3% that we left behind. Now, this section is the really bad section. This was a very, very large area on the hood that almost looked like it had like knife marks on it or something. I don't know what this was or how it happened, but it was very bad and very deep, and I did have to wet sand this multiple times. It was one of the more, this was probably the most severe wet sanding defect like I ever had to do on a car so far. It was very, very bad. This is a $300,000 car. You would definitely hope that I don't have to wet sand this big of a patch of your hood on a $300,000 car, especially considering that we're pretty sure somebody polished this car before that I got to it, because that's why the yellow sections look better than the black sections. So it's hard to tell what happened, or if the person who was polishing it maybe accidentally did this to the car. It's, you know, we'll never know. It's one of the great mysteries of the car universe. But good news is we were able to fix it. And once again, we basically got this to like 99%. I think if you really look hard enough, or I get the light just right, it can be hard to show on camera. But there was like 1% of a ghosting left behind on that, and I guarantee the film was going to fill that in, so I wasn't too worried about it. And defects like these, when I say there's 1 or 2% left behind, they're relatively easy, in quotation marks, to see under my shop lights. But if I pull a car outside in the sun, guys, you would never see it. It would be impossible to see. So you really need those shop lights to kind of see these things. And to the average person, you guys would think I cleaned that 100%, you know, fixed it 100% and made it perfect. And to my eyes, I see the 1, 2, 3, 4%. You know, I operate in increments of 1% at a time. So there's no such thing as, you know, oh, it was 90% or it was 100%. No, there was 90, and then there's 91, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You know what I'm saying? Like, we go a little further than most people. So it's important to me that things are fixed as good as possible, and you have to measure that in, you know, the 1% increments. Now, once we fixed all the bad things that needed sanding, the rest of the paint correction did go very smoothly, like you would hope it would go on a $300,000 car that had very, very, very low miles. And everything came out nicely. Even that weird oxidation spot on that lower rocker, that came out very quickly and very nicely. And this is why you want to paint correct your car, guys. It's not terribly complicated to do usually. The average person probably can pull off the average paint correction on a brand new car at home, and we sell all these things on my store, but most people are either way too busy, and that's why they afford such a nice car, because they don't have the time to actually, you know, put into doing these jobs, so they would send the car to us. But if you are the kind of person who either enjoys these things or has the time, you know, you can pull off a pretty decent paint correction at home on a brand new car if you're just using the right products, which we sell in our store. But obviously the wet sanding stuff we did here was, in my opinion, very advanced things that the average person does not want to try. And if you do, there is a very strong chance that you'll ruin the hood or ruin that front bumper and need to actually respray it. And that would be a catastrophe. You never want to respray your brand new McLaren. So there's some things you guys can do at home, and there's some things you want the professional to do. Probably err on having the professional do your very expensive car. But I do want to talk more about and show more videos and encourage you guys to be able to DIY more stuff, because I think a lot of it's approachable, and you guys don't realize how approachable it is. A lot of the shots there were shown on how good the paint looked after that paint correction, and we have tons of dust everywhere, and we talk a lot about that usually in our recent videos. If you're new to the channel, this is compound dust. It goes everywhere after we compound, especially if I have to wet sand. When we wet sand, we have to remove a really serious defect like sanding marks. When we do that, we end up having major compounding stages to remove all those sanding marks, and that creates large amounts of compound dust. So now we have to rewash the car. So this is the second time the car is being washed, and this wash is a little more easygoing than my first wash that we showed at the very, very beginning. Basically this one, we're gonna rinse the whole car. I'm gonna take a lot of time really rinsing out around the lights, the hood jams, and just anything that paint protection film is going to go on. Now this car is getting only a full front paint protection film job, and we're gonna talk more about that in a second with a cameo from a ZL1 Camaro, and we're going to talk about why these two cars got different styles of paint protection film. But as I mentioned, the whole car has to be cleaned because I don't really want dust floating around on the car, but the front of the car gets a little more of an intense rinsing and cleaning to make sure that the areas where the film is going to go really is clean, because I don't want any dust going into my paint protection film. If I have a speck or two of dust go on the back half of the car when I'm ceramic coating, for example, that's not the end of the world. But in film, it's a big deal. So, you know, you're seeing like I'm spending a lot of time rinsing out this little like, you know, front windshield part where the wipers are, and a lot of dust can be hidden in there. So if you're an installer or you do paint protection film, because I know a lot of people watching my channel actually are detailers, guys, you cannot over prep and over rinse your car after a paint correction. Rinse it, and then when you think you're done, rinse all the stuff that might cause problems later one more time, like all those jams, the hood jams, the headlights, like that front grille where the windshield wipers are. You'll thank yourself later when your PPF install goes really smoothly and you don't have any dust. So you'll see I'm spraying the hood before I actually roll out the paint protection film, and this is a really crucial step that a lot of people might not understand, but I'm sure they've seen in all my videos. If you don't do that, you're going to get something called a pre-tack mark. Now, a pre-tack mark is when you basically put a piece of paint protection film down, which has very strong adhesive on the back, and it sticks to the panel, and then you'll see I peel this back up to spray it, make sure everything is wet, and that's because I want to make sure it's so wet, so lubricated that we won't get a pre-tack mark. A pre-tack mark is going to look like if the glue sticks and then I pull it back up and put it back down, there'll be like a disturbance in that glue, and you get this visual defect in the film, and it's very not good looking. You don't want that to happen, and if it's bad enough, you actually would have to throw away the entire piece. So it's very important that we have really good like lubrication on the film and on the car when you're first laying it out. Now some panels will require stretch. This hood, for example, doesn't really require any stretch, and in my opinion that's the best way to apply a piece of film, because when you stretch you can run into issues here and there, but on many panels that is the only way to install on a car. We always do our best to tuck all the edges and make the film invisible, especially on a light colored car like this. This yellow will show dirt lines if we don't do our maximum effort to tuck everything. I wanted to shout this out real quick. A customer of mine who's a really nice guy gave us this free Viper chair. He thought it would be a nice gift for us, and he was right. I love that thing. I'm using it a lot, and you might see me in videos here and there rolling around on the Viper chair. That thing is super, super cool. So this is a panel where you're going to require stretch, where the hood did not require it. So if you just lay this on and try and put this on, it's just not going to work. Now you saw I was putting my hands on the car and trying to show you something. I was showing you that we were having issues installing this, and when I say we, I mean myself, because I didn't have the stretch right. And when you don't stretch something right on a panel that requires stretch, you get something called fingers. And fingers are basically when the paint protection film bunches up in a way where it's very difficult to put down, and again, you get really bad defects, or it's just flat out impossible to put down. And then you'll see Paul, who's also my teacher and my installer, was kind of guiding me, and it's so great to have Paul around to be able to do that and step in and say, here's how you're having a problem. If you do this or tug this way, it'll go in great. And then it always goes super smoothly after that. So it's really great to have a teacher who is also, doing the cars, but also can step aside for a second and help me do a car. Paul is wonderful, and I can't shout him out enough on the channel as a teacher, but also as just an expert installer doing your guys' cars. So we do the cars together typically, and we just finished a new car because this video was filmed a while ago, and we actually almost split the car down the middle. I almost did half and he did half. So I am greatly improving in my skills, and I'm learning and I'm mastering the stretch of a panel and getting really good at it. Now the ZL1 Camaro makes a cameo in the video because a lot of you would say, why is this car getting full body? This Camaro got full body paint protection film, and the $300,000 McLaren only got a full front. Well, it's pretty simple. The McLaren won't be used on a track. It won't even be used on the street that much. It's going to be driven to the grocery store a lot and around town, and it's not really going to go on the highway much, and he's not going to do rallies, and he's not going to drive with other guys who have sticky tires. So he doesn't really need a full body. He's also not going to own that car for very long. He might only own it for a year or two. The gentleman with this Camaro lives near Road America and will do lots of track time and he will own the car for exponentially longer than the McLaren gentleman will. So this car gets full body because it makes sense. So when you guys reach out to me about paint protection film, especially if you're not sure about how much paint protection film you want or if you want any, we're going to have a very in-depth conversation about how you're going to use your car so we can determine what amount of film you need and what your pain threshold is for rock chips and defects and things on your car, because all of that determines how much film you require. And that's why a car that's less expensive like the ZL1 got full body and the McLaren got only a full front, even though it was 3 times as expensive. I wanted to show this Cayenne Turbo GT really fast because we did a full vinyl wrap job on this car. This is like a matte china gray kind of color. That's not the exact name of this color. But the point is we have an amazing vinyl wrap guy who's really, really, really good. And if you guys ever want vinyl wrap jobs, you can always reach out and I can give you quotes on that, because we can do vinyl wrap at Status Detail, even though we obviously prefer perfect paint and perfect glossy paint with PPF or just ceramic on it. But vinyl wrap is an option if you're interested. Now, the inside of the car was in pretty good shape. However, the car is, used by definition. Like, this customer has driven this car a couple hundred miles. So there were some things going on here, and even more so than, the cars that have 19 miles that we clean. This car has miles on it. The owner has driven it. So it was even more important that we fully clean the leather, because we did leather ceramic and there were some scuffs in some places. So we really needed to properly clean the inside of this car before we did leather ceramic, because it was properly used and driven before it came to me. All my interior prep stuff is basically done with Gyeon products. I like to use Gyeon Prep, Gyeon Interior Detailer, and Gyeon Leather Cleaner with a Gyeon Leather brush. I often use a Detail Factory brush, and all of that is for sale on statusdetailstore.com. And then I do my leather ceramic with L1 Leather Guard from Gtechniq. It is by far the best product that I've found for leather protection for one main reason. It does not change the look or feel of the leather. That's a huge, massive deal. A lot of these cars have really special leather interiors that are really rare, really unique leather that's, different than what you'd find in a Ford or a Chevy or even a Mercedes or an Audi. Some of these cars have a really special, sensitive leather, so you need to use something that is going to work well with those. And L1 Leather Guard simply has proven to be great on all leather, even very sensitive leather, very expensive leathers, the stuff that you'd find in a Rolls Royce, like these really open pore leather that will really suck a lot of a product in. You have to be careful what kind of products you use on a car like that, and all the products I just mentioned are safe on all sensitive leathers and more robust leathers like you might find in a Chevy or a Ford. The last step that was shown off camera was the exterior ceramic coatings, and once that's done, the car is finished, and that's why in these shots the car looks so glossy and so incredible. There are so many things I'd love to show you guys in these videos, but a Status Detail is truly a all-consuming process. They're very, very time-consuming. There's a lot of stuff going on. I do my very best to show you a lot of the detailed shots and as much as I can. And even after doing that, these videos end up around 20 minutes. So to show you everything, the videos would be like an hour. And a lot of the comments, I see people saying things and asking things. And 9 times out of 10, if you have a question about something in regards to did you do this or did this happen? The answer is going to be typically yes, it definitely did happen. I just didn't have time to film it. I think I'm the king right now of doing Porsches. We've done so many Porsches, and recently I've done so many Porsches, it's crazy. And I'd love to get more McLarens, more Ferraris, more Aston Martins. So if you watch this video, you have a McLaren coming soon, or a Ferrari or an Aston Martin, or anything cool and unique, I'd love to work on it. I'd love to do business with you guys. We do more out-of-state business than we do in-state business at this point. So we actually have customers even coming from Canada who are international customers. I have a couple videos filmed that are coming. One is on a GT3 Touring. One is going to be on a GT3 RS that we're about to do. And I just wrapped up filming on a 911 Sport Classic. That's an amazing video that actually has worse defects than this car. And I'm going to see you guys in one of those videos very, very soon. Thank you so much for watching.